Hey everybody, this is Robot here from Vespa Motorsport and Scooterwest.com here in San Diego, California, the premier web store for all things Vespa, whether you're looking for parts to do repairs, restoration, or the best in accessories. So today I'm going to show you how to install a retrofit LED headlight in your modern Vespa. And I'll tell you what models this will fit and which ones it won't. I know that's the boring part of the video. The fun part's when I install it. So first of all, it fits pretty much any model where the headlight comes on with the key or you start it and it comes full brightness. So many of the 50cc models, they run the headlight off of magneto. So it kind of looks like a candle. It's very dim when you're at idle. You can't really run the LED in this. So quickly to summarize the models that this will fit that use specifically the H4 style bulb is pretty much the Vespa LX and Vespa S150, the 125 in other markets. And they made that scooter pretty much from 2005 all the way to around 2013. You got the LXV that goes on to about 2014, 2015. It will fit those as well. And then its predecessor will fit pretty much the Primavera in Sprint. That was imported here in the United States, the 150 model, from 2015 all the way up to 2018. 2019, they just come with an LED headlight, a whole entire headlight assembly. And you look at my prior videos, I've showed how to retrofit the whole entire complete LED assembly and not just the retrofit bulb. Of course, this is the least expensive way to get a nice bright headlight out of your Vespa. It gives you that nice cool blue look too. As for the larger Vespas, I'm talking the 250s, the 200s, the 300s, pretty much any of those models, if they have an incandescent bulb, it will fit. So I'm talking the GT200 all the way back from 2004, 2005 to 2019, where the GTS still had the incandescent headlight. You could swap this over. 2020, the HPE models specifically have an LED headlight. Pretty much all the Vespa GTVs, the Sei Giorni, the GT60, they still rock an incandescent bulb. This will fit into those. So let's get right into the installation and what's included. So you have this very specific style LED bulb. You can go online, AliExpress, eBay, you type the word LEDH4, you're gonna find like a million different ones and they're not like this, I'll tell you that. Most of them have a fan in the back or they have some pretty bulbous area on the back. They just do not have the clearance to fit on the scooter. This is one that's specific that fits the Vespa. And you can find this on the Scooterwest website. Is LEDH4 is the part number for this. So a couple other parts that are included with the kit. You have this specific sealed ballast. It's got really nice connectors on it. It pretty much regulates the power to the LED bulbs, and there's a couple little zip ties included as well. So all you need is some basic tools, a 17mm wrench, a small screwdriver to pry the badge, a rag preferably, a number 2 Phillips screwdriver. Sometimes you'll need a Torx on newer models. You can find this at a hardware store or anywhere pretty much, even like Walmart. Coarse sandpaper. It could be emery cloth like this piece or just any type of sandpaper. We're just gonna pretty much grind off 2 little tabs on a plastic piece, real simple to do. This LX is a pretty simple model to install this in. It's very, very similar to doing it on the GTS, 250, 300, GT200. First of all, you got to remove the mirrors and you need a 17mm wrench to do that. And if you have the GTS models, you're going to have the little brake reservoir covers. So get your 17mm wrench. Sometimes they have reverse threads on different models. This one got just regular left-hand threads for both mirrors. This specifically is a 2008 LX150 here. You can see the headlight, just the basic incandescent headlight. So get those mirrors out of the way. 17mm wrench does that trick pretty much for all the Vespas. And just to make the job a little easier, we'll get the horn cover out of the way. And you could use our Scooterwest pry tools, or you could put a rag in here, pry it off with a flat blade screwdriver. It only pries from the left-hand side. There's nowhere to pry it from the right-hand side, so keep that in mind. Just depending on the model, if it's a newer one, it's going to have that star style screwdriver, the Torx. This one just used a regular Phillips bit. Unscrew the screw, I even left it in place. And at this point, you have easy access to the center fastener right here. Just go ahead and pull that. Again, the Phillips screwdriver does the trick. And then moving on to the back, very much like the GTS, they have a fastener on the left and the right side. So pretty much just get right behind here. And get these screws out of the way. And we'll carefully pry up on this handlebar assembly. So there's several connectors. You can probably see them when I pull this up. The first one being the 3-pin connector to the headlight bulb. Just kind of give it a wiggle. The city light bulb, you could disconnect it, or you could just pull the whole entire bulb out of the headlight assembly. So either way, it's possible to do that. But if you do want to disconnect it, along with the turn signals on this model, you can push the little tab with your nail or a little screwdriver and get these disconnected. So sometimes you can kind of do the trick where I'm pushing the little tab and just giving the little yank of the wiring right there. So at this point, we have the headlight assembly. That's a part of the handlebar cover. So you got the headlight assembly. If you're wondering what's going on in here, there's a height adjustment screw that's accessible right through this hole. There's a left and right side adjustment screw right here. So sometimes when you install an LED headlight, you may want to adjust the beam. You want to remove this rubber, moisture and dust guard from the headlight assembly. And almost all the Vespas have this kind of locking little ring right here. So I just turned it counterclockwise, and it pretty much exposes those notches and pulls right out. And then you can pull the headlight bulb out. And I've covered this in past videos on how to change your headlight bulb. You're going to find a couple different styles of rings on these headlights. So the most common style is going to look like this. It's got these two wings here. Sometimes you're going to have different color of them, and every once in a while you'll find one that just doesn't have the ring. It's just these headlights are supplied by several different manufacturers, but the vast majority of them have these two little tabs right here. So what you got to do is remove those tabs before you put the LED headlight in. And it's fairly easy to do so. You just this is like 80 grit emery cloth, and it takes probably about a minute of just grinding it down, and you'll pretty much take those two little pegs off. So you can see I already started it right here. So maybe about a minute, and you'll take them down to pretty much where they're not there, and it's just flat. So yeah, I can just barely feel them. That's as far as you need to take it. You don't need to get too crazy with it. So you take that till it's flat with emery cloth 80 grit. Shouldn't take more than a minute or two to do that job. And next we'll prepare the LED headlight for installation. So you have this LED headlight. It's got these heat sink ribbons. These dissipate the heat. And then you got this little bayonet style ring right here. So I can partly turn the LED headlight and separate this ring. It's possible to install without doing that as well. So you go ahead and set that little ring in place, and with the tabs ground off, you go ahead and rotate that into place. At this point, you can even put the rubber boot back in. This is keyed, so there's a wider little tab right here and a smaller tab. The smaller tab kind of goes at, I would say, the 10 o'clock position. So you put that in there and just give it a little turn, and it will be seated in place. And you can see it's in there, and the little, just how it's engineered, it's like sitting in there just perfectly. And these little heatsink tabs is what I typically like to do, is just fold them backwards. And I'll show you one tip with these older scooters that have a different style speedometer, and you got to isolate these heat sinks, keep them out of the way. So sometimes I'll tuck the that topmost one to the side, but just something like that, because you have the speedometer that rests right here, and it's got some electrical contacts, and you don't want these conducting copper ribbons to make contact with that headlight. Next part, you want to get the ballast. You have this multi-pin plug. It only keys in one direction. And you can see there's little arrows. So when I get it installed, you'll see there's an arrow on both sides of the connection. Get those lined up and go ahead and thread the lock in place. And this little ballast has a spot for a zip tie. And the way you could do that is just string it through these two little holes right here. And the idea being is you could zip tie this out of the way, typically right beside the headlight, or this mounting point of the headlight. It doesn't need to be too tight. It's just enough to keep it from rattling and keep it in place. So something like that will be good. And there's these 4 mounting posts. Another option is to actually just tie it to the wiring of the scooter. You can do it several different ways. So it's kind of all prepared, ready for installation. They do include, we have this extra zip tie. You could use that to secure this wiring if you like. So you could do something like this, keep it out of the way. Because off to the side, there's not much in the way right here, but you do have to, there's a very limited clearance right here, and that's why you have to have everything kind of tucked out of the way. So at this point, we'll just start plugging everything back in. And also this is an opportunity, this little, they call this a running light or a city light. You could replace that with an LED. The Scooterwest part number is 12V194 LED. You can find them on our web store. We'll plug our turnstiles back in. So you got the left and the right for this LX. Obviously the GTSs, they don't have the turnstiles up on the handlebars like this LX does. Primaveras are very similar. And then we have the running light connection. And this 3-pin connector plugs into the existing headlight connection. And it stays pretty tight, so you don't need to put any zip tie or tape around it, but you could kind of get everything. I would suggest kind of tucking it all to the side, so you know, you want to make sure everything kind of goes together nice and smoothly, and you're not jamming anything back together when you're closing up this handlebar cover here. So go ahead and get this handlebar cover all lined up. Make sure none of the wires are under the mirrors. And we'll get the screws all back in place. So you take that kind of sheet metal looking screw, either have a magnetized screwdriver or put a dab of grease on the screwdriver so it doesn't fall down into the frame. So you get that kind of started right there. And then you have this kind of thread forming screw, and those are used on the left and the right side. And GTSs, they use a little bit smaller screw. The Primaveras and Sprints, all the screws are from the underside. But you put those all back, put the horn cover back on. You got the single screw for the horn cover to kind of shift that in place, and then get the screw in there, pop the badge in place. The mirrors, pretty much you just reinstall the mirrors kind of in the reverse order. And the way these work, most Vespa mirrors, is you thread them in. Make sure you get them threaded in straight. And pretty much the mirror's going to stop, then go back one turn, get the mirror head perfectly over the grip, take your 17mm wrench, and then tighten the lock nut, keeping that mirror head right over the grip. And that's the ideal position. Obviously, you can make some adjustment here and go ahead and do the same on the other side. So let's see how this works. Oh yeah, that's much better. I'm blinding the camera there. I found with these headlights is the aim's pretty good. The light's much cooler. You can see this little melt that's in the headlight. That's typical with the halogen headlights. If you put your jacket, you put a cover over it with the headlight on, the halogen headlight puts off so much infrared heat, it will melt the lens. Well, these LED headlights are much cooler temperature light. There's not as much infrared, so it's not nearly as warm. I do feel a little bit of warmth. And the other thing is these don't draw nearly as much on your battery. The typical halogen bulb that's in these draws about 55, 60 watts. These just draw about 16 watts, so it's much, much less, but they throw out more light. So you take that kind of sheet metal looking screw, either have a magnetized screwdriver or put a dab of grease on the screwdriver so it doesn't fall down into the frame. So you get that kind of started right there. And then you have this kind of thread forming screw, and those are used on the left and the right side. In GTSs, they use a little bit smaller screw. The Primaveras and Sprints, all the screws are from the underside. But you put those all back, put the horn cover back on. You got the single screw for the horn cover to kind of shift that in place, and then get the screw in there, pop the badge in place. The mirrors, pretty much you just reinstall the mirrors kind of in the reverse order. And the way these work, most Vespa mirrors, is you thread them in. Make sure you get them threaded in straight. And pretty much the mirror is going to stop, then go back one turn, get the mirror head perfectly over the grip, take your 17mm wrench, and then tighten the lock nut, keeping that mirror head right over the grip. And that's the ideal position. Obviously, you can make some adjustment here and go ahead and do the same on the other side. So let's see how this works. Oh yeah, that's much better. I'm blinding the camera there. I found with these headlights is the aim's pretty good. The light's much cooler. You can see this little melt that's in the headlight. That's typical with the halogen headlights. If you put your jacket, you put a cover over it with the headlight on, the halogen headlight puts off so much infrared heat, it will melt the lens. Well, these LED headlights are much cooler temperature light. There's not as much infrared, so it's not nearly as warm. I do feel a little bit of warmth. And the other thing is these don't draw nearly as much on your battery. The typical halogen bulb that's in these draws about 55, 60 watts. These just draw about 16 watts, so it's much, much less, but they throw out more light. So this latest generation LED, the LED elements, they're not necessarily elements, the dyes or the diodes that are on the LED. They're in a very close position to the original incandescent filaments. So I find that this one is one of the best beam patterns we've ever had. The cutoff is really, really good, so you're not blinding other oncoming traffic, as you see with many other people putting lower quality LED replacements in their cars and motorcycles and such. And of course, this is specific for the Vespa, where it fits inside the Vespa housing with the very limited clearance. So I hope you found that interesting. A very inexpensive way to upgrade your headlight light output without replacing the whole entire assembly. That typically costs, over $200 if you wanted to go to a full LED headlight assembly. Obviously, those are pretty nice. I've covered those in the past, and we have several different options at any time on the Scooterwest web store. But until next time, this is Robot here from Vespa Motorsport and Scooterwest.com. I want to thank all my subscribers. Can't believe we've gotten this channel to where it is. And 750 or so videos strong at this point. And I just want to keep it going. So until next time, Robot here.